John J. Tecklenburg will be sworn in for a second term as mayor of Charleston. Today, I sat down exclusively with the mayor for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview Friday on iHeartRadio. Mayor John Tecklenburg, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, thank you, Quintin. Happy New Year.
Likewise. What took you so long? I haven't interviewed you in a year.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Fun. Who is John Tecklenburg in 2020 versus 2016 when you became mayor?
I'm the same old guy, Quintin. I hadn't changed. Yeah. Excited, positive.
Positive.
Yeah, man.
As a matter of fact, I've been getting the emails about your upcoming inauguration, Charleston Together.
Right.
If we were to fast forward to Monday, and you're standing in front of crowds of people and you're being inaugurated and you've delivered your speech, what exactly will your theme be?
What will my what?
Theme
be?
Yes, sir.
Well, it will be a positive theme. 2020 is going to be a great year. I'm very much looking forward to it. And coincidentally, it's our birthday.
Right.
It's Charleston's 350th birthday.
Sure.
And we have a lot of cultural things planned and historical presentations and talk about the full range of Charleston's history. So that's part of what adds up to a great year. But the other thing is, and we can talk about these individually, is all the projects and initiatives that we're working on that I'm so excited about.
Well,
so it'll be very positive.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. Let me get back to the election.
Yeah.
Where were you on election night and the runoff? Well, actually, where were you on the runoff night when you won? Where was your mind?
I would again say very positive, very much looking forward to being able to move forward with a lot of things that we're working on. And so even though Quintin and I was very, felt confident and knowledgeable 4 years ago when I first got elected, there is this extra level of confidence and having my sea legs under me, to use an expression, of being having the experience of being in the office for 4 years. And so we're gangbusters, ready to go and working on all kind of stuff. So it did give me on election night that extra sense of commitment and encouragement going forward that we really get some stuff done.
You talk about Charleston Together. Let me ask you this, Mayor.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Charleston Together on election night when you were forced into a runoff with Mike Stevens?
I don't know that I understand the question. I think we were together. There was a field of 6, so it was hard to get 50% of the vote. But how do you mean?
Why didn't you get 50% in your mind?
Well, you got a field of 6, Quintin, and so you got to get 50% of the vote, and every candidate has their own friends and supporters, and so getting 48% in a field of 6 is actually a pretty strong showing.
What did that tell you about you?
It told me that we had run a good campaign because we were 16 or 18 points above Mr. Seeking's number 2. So we had a great campaign. I felt good about it.
And I know I've been mentioned in your campaign flyers. Thank you for the endorsement. But then when you look back at those campaign flyers, what were truths and what were half-truths in your mind?
Well, I look at it more as being some of those campaign flyers and mailers were pretty negative. And I try to stay positive as I am now and as I'm positive about what we're going to do in 2020. And, so I kind of gauged it as being the difference being negative and positive. I try to be very positive about the direction we're headed in.
Now, I know there was a particular campaign flyer in which you've listed all the projects that you've done for mayor. Which projects were on your watch and which projects were on the mayor's watch, the previous mayor's watch in your mind?
Well, all those projects that were on that flyer, on the map, were things that we worked on. Now, many of them were started before I became mayor, but that's just part of the continuum. I mean, when the next mayor serves, I'm sure they'll finish out some things I've started. But we finished some things that had been started before, and we started some new things. But they were all accomplishments that had occurred during the last 4 years.
The International African American Museum, how was that accomplishment of yours?
Well, we broke ground on it. We've facilitated over the last 4 years getting a construction contract in place.
Sure.
That I've worked diligently on.
Right.
We've continued under my and with the support of City Council of providing more funding every year to allow the museum to be able to proceed. We've many hours of work over the last 4 years from the city's part has gone into making that groundbreaking possible. And I serve on the board of the African American Museum as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
You talk about obviously City Council.
Yeah.
You had Mike Seekins running against you. You had Gary White running against you.
Right.
You had several City Council members endorsing Gary White for mayor. How do you look at your relationship with City Council now?
Very positive. I think there was some politics last year, and once the election is over with, I think council pulls together, and we'll see evidence of that early this year, and we'll work on projects and ordinance to the benefit of our citizens. The election's passed us. Time for council to work together. We got some new council members as well, and they'll be coming up to speed. I feel very good about relations with council.
But then, how did they describe you as mayor, Mr. Tecklenburg?
You'd have to ask them, Quintin.
Let me ask you, I definitely will. Let me ask you this. How many infrastructure projects have you been able to complete under your leadership thus far?
Well, Quintin, I don't have the number right in my head, but there have been dozens. There's been parks improved. There's been drainage projects completed.
Okay.
There's lots in the works as well. I mean, some of the lifespan of some of these bigger projects really take some time. The smaller ones like Westwood neighborhood, we got done in 6 months and it's done. Yeah. So just particularly frustrating is these highway projects, which we don't manage, either the county or the DOT does. But by the time you do the engineering, get your environmental approvals and the funding in place, often it'll be multiple years just getting ready to build the project. In fact, sometimes if you look at the lifespan of a large project, about 20% of the time is actual construction, and 80% of the time is getting the permits and the funding together and the engineering done and the environmental permits. I mean, it's very complicated sometimes, and that's true of drainage projects as well. But there's been dozens of things we've gotten completed. I feel good about it.
Let me talk to you about one of those projects.
Yeah.
The Spring project. Obviously, that's over budget. The city had to use other funds to fund that purportedly. How will you pay for projects outside of the city without using funds for this particular project?
I'm not sure I understand that question either. The projected budget for that project, Quintin, was done about 12 years ago.
Right.
And when they did that budget, they projected it be a single phase over about 3 years. And this all happened before I became mayor, that instead of being a single phase 3-year project, it became a 5-phase 10-year project. So there were real cost implications to that frankly didn't present themselves until you got to about phase 4, which is when we realized that we were going to have to secure additional funding in order to complete it. So we've applied to the State Infrastructure Bank Board, and hopefully we'll get a good result. Phase 4 is completely funded, and that will take another 2 years to complete, just phase 4. And then phase 5 will come after that, and we are seeking to secure additional funding to complete phase 5.
Altogether, Mayor, how much is this going to cost for the Spring project in your mind once you get that money from the state for infrastructure?
Yeah, about $200 million. The original, about $200 million when all is said and done.
Let me move over to Johns Island. Let me ask you bluntly, Mayor.
Yeah.
Where is your comprehensive plan for traffic on Johns Island?
Where is my comprehensive plan for traffic?
Yes, sir.
Well, some great improvements are on the way. February or March, we'll be starting with the county actually does the project,
Yes.
Quintin, not
Right.
the city.
Of course.
We get no funding to build a road. All the money for building roads either is the half-cent sales tax that goes to the county or your gas tax whenever you buy a gallon of gas.
Right.
Part of that money goes to the state and part of it goes to the federal government. The city of Charleston collects zero money to build a road. We're not authorized to collect any funds for that. So just to explain that to you. But the improvements that are planned for Johns Island are really great. The intersection of River and Maybank, we're going to add 2 turn lanes coming off of River on the Maybank and widen Maybank for that first 1,000 feet coming from River Road back into town. That will ease that congestion in the morning. Now, to ease congestion going home, the northern pitchfork will begin construction this year. We've secured also the right-of-way for the southern pitchfork, but the county hadn't committed the funds yet to build it. So that's sitting on the shelf for a while. But most importantly, the half-cent sales tax that I supported in 2016 provides funding for a flyover at Savannah Highway and Main Road so that you won't have to get up to that light to take a left turn. You know how it backs up so badly there. So, I mean, that's one of those projects, Quintin, and the public that takes 5 to 7 years to get permitted and environmental clearance and design. It's underway, but and the funding's in place. It's just going to take a while. But on top of all that, the project to extend 526 is alive and well. If you go to the South Carolina DOT website, you can get an update on the project. The DOT is proceeding with revised traffic studies that were needed because it had been so long since they'd been done, finishing the engineering and the alternatives of what will be built, and getting the environmental permits. Once again, that takes some time, but they're actively working on it. It's moving forward, and I feel good about that. So if you combine the, I would call it a comprehensive plan of improving Main Road and Savannah Highway, widening Main Road, improving River Road and Maybank, widening Maybank, and completing the 526 extension, all those things in place will take a little time, but all those things in place will provide real congestion and traffic relief to get to Johns Island and back. And the rest of the region, it's not just about Johns Island. It's about connectivity for our region, you know, because you'll be able to go West Ashley, Johns Island, James Island, back to town, to North Charleston. It really connects things. And the thing that really a lot of folks don't realize maybe is that the extension will include the ability for our low country rapid transit to be able to easily get around. So it will be an improvement for public transit long term. And there will be a bike and pedestrian facility or a bikeway along with the extension, which it's going to be a great public amenity, not just for getting around, but for recreation. And it's such a beautiful vista out there. It's going to be terrific.
But Mayor, without those traffic fixes, how do you stop development?
Well, you know, our region is growing, and you're not going to just stop development. What do you want to put a moratorium and just put the gate down and tell nobody else they can ever build anything again? That's not what we're seeking to do. What we're seeking to do is to, when development occurs, to make sure that it's done intelligently, that it does, particularly from a water and drainage point of view, does no harm to anyone within their drainage basin, and addresses infrastructure needs. So, for example, when a new development occurs, really anywhere in the city, we now require sidewalks, we require infrastructure that 50 years ago, I'm afraid that planners in the city weren't always thinking about that. And that's why historically, particularly West Ashley, Johns Island, James Island. You have many neighborhoods that never got sidewalks, that never had proper drainage, and now we're having to go back and fix things. But we want to make sure we grow in a very wise way, addressing infrastructure that's needed, and not doing any negative impact to existing folks.
Let me go back to the Pitchfork projects on Johns Island.
Yeah.
How much money is in the budget for these projects, Mayor?
Well, once again, I explained to you a minute ago, it's not in the city's budget. It's in the county's budget and the state highway department. We don't receive funding to build roads. So I believe the North Pitchfork is about $10 million. There's a couple of million for that intersection improvement.
Right.
And for the main road improvements from Savannah Highway all the way down to Betsy Carrison.
Yes.
What was it? I hate to quote the number,
no worries.
but it was 60, 70. I mean, it's pretty sizable number that's required for that project. It's part of the half-cent sales tax. It's not flowing through the city's budget.
Sure. Let me turn to diversity. What policies would you support to ensure diversity in the city in 2020?
Well, we have those policies in place already. Can we improve them? I'm sure we will. We hired our first diversity officer, and Amber Johnson.
Right.
Have you met Amber?
I would like to interview her.
She's a wonderful young lady. That came out of our resolution apologizing for the city's role in slavery. And so Amber is really getting settled in. She started a few months ago, and she's looking at our policies at every aspect. But, we already have good non-discrimination policies. We're looking at the practices as well as making sure we're following those policies. Another example would be with our follow-up with the racial bias audit that we did of the police department.
Right.
So we on that front as well, got a number of initiatives we're working on and good folks in place, and I feel good about it.
You talk about that racial bias audit.
Yeah.
Would you be able to sit on a national committee and talk about racial bias audits in Charleston and elsewhere?
Would I be able to?
Yes,
I
sir.
think I would, yeah.
Okay.
If somebody asked me to.
Actually, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me turn over
You
to...
got one started? I'll be glad to.
Hey, man, I get to ask the question. But let me turn to gentrification.
Yeah.
What policies would you enact to slow gentrification in this city?
Well, to address gentrification, you got to provide more affordable housing, and that's exactly what we're doing. We've got literally hundreds of units in the planning stages and under construction right now. We've put together more money for affordable housing at one time than the city's ever done before by getting our bond done and recovering money from the LDC.
Right.
So we've been investing with partners like the Charleston Housing Authority.
Right.
We've got 65 units going to open in July of this year up between Lee and Cooper Street. The next block, we're going to have a similar size development that we're partnering with a private affordable housing developer. We just bought 48 units over on Johns Island.
Right.
We just bought some property in West Ashley that we're planning to develop into for sale affordable townhomes. So Gianna Johnson's very busy right now, and we're partnering with 180 Place. So we're going to break ground this year on about 85 units of transitional housing for very low income individuals and families. So the key to fighting gentrification, if you will, is to provide more affordable housing so that people have options to affordably live in the city of Charleston and not be displaced if their rents go up.
That affordable housing plan.
Yes.
I know you've purchased a lot of projects for the city and whatnot.
Right.
Do you think in the next 10 years, your plan might be outdated there?
I think there's going to be continued need for affordable housing, and not just building units, but we've put in other policy changes, Quintin, like to cut out the red tape Like when you have a bona fide affordable project in the city of Charleston now, we have this red big sticker that we put on the permit application and all the applications that are involved with that to get your approvals, and it goes to the top of the pile. We expedite affordable approvals for affordable housing. So it's not just our own projects of building things, but it's also facilitating for others to do it as well. So there are many other policies and incentives and fundraising techniques we've started over the last 4 years. Can they be improved upon? Yeah, we're always looking to make things better, but I think there will continue to be a need for an emphasis on affordability in Charleston, given the market here.
The Eastside. How do you hope residents will be able to come together as Charleston?
By working on a lot of things together, Quintin. I mean, there's been some public safety challenges, as you know. Last weekend, we are earlier this week, we've arrested a number of folks who've been, illegally dealing in drugs. There's some work to do, but it's a cooperative work between citizens and our public safety officials and even other things. We've been planting trees, we've been putting out trash cans, just doing other neighborhood initiatives, working with the ECDC and the neighborhood leaders there and citizens. And I just believe if you continue to get together and communicate and work on things together, you build that sense of trust and unity that comes out of that.
Why do you think people are advocating for cameras and public safety on the East Side now versus 20 years ago?
Well, it's just a tool. It's one of the many tools in the toolbox. So we've had cameras on the East Side and other parts of the city for 20 years, but with the heightened awareness or need, there's been a push to add more cameras. It's a good thing. It helps you be able to spot, a perpetrator, a criminal after an activity, and help public safety and the police department be able to make arrests. So it's a good thing to do. We had a nice donation at St. John's Church last week. I was there, and we plan to add many cameras around the neighborhood, just so we've got a good eye on things.
Good eye on things. Yeah. Let me turn to the audit.
Okay.
And obviously you had some issues with the Johnny Wineglass case as well. Mr. Mayor, do you have a money problem?
No, Quinn. I'm making a very nice salary. I'm doing fine.
Okay. When you look back at the auditor right now, what do you think was not told correctly in your mind that you can set the record straight here?
Well, it was a political year, Quintin, and I just write off some of those things that were brought up and said as being a political year in politics. And I think it's part of what you live with as being scrutiny of being a public official. And, the election's over and we're ready to keep working and do a lot of positive things for Charleston. It's behind us.
It's behind you, but Mayor,
yeah.
Did it affect your family? How did it affect your family?
My family's fine, Quentin. We're doing great.
Did it hurt you all emotionally? Because everyone knows you're a great guy, and then the audit comes up. How did that affect your family and you personally?
Well, Quentin, is like anything else. If you have a little challenge in life, at least me, I just keep on going, get through it. I think in politics, I think about a duck. Sometimes you got to let the water run off your back.
Yes.
And
obviously there were some problems, you came up with some problems about your wife, Miss Sandy Tecklenburg, who we all love. Why do you think they targeted the First Lady in your mind?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask them.
Ask them, what exactly is the role of the First Lady in your mind when you tell the average citizen of Charleston?
To help represent the city in a very positive way And my wife is very talented at connecting people and helping people, particularly those most in need in
Yes,
our
she does.
community. And so she loves doing that.
Yes.
And I'm just pleased that she has the opportunity to help people. That drives her heart,
Right.
and part of her faith in God,
Yes.
that we serve one another and help one another. And that's what she gets up every day and tries to do.
Now, Mr. Mayor, why exactly did you vote for the audit back then? When you look back at the audit to right now and your vote, what still plays in your mind? Why exactly did you vote for the audit?
Well, the council wanted to have a review of various things in the city and in my department. I'm just transparent. If you want to take a look at
Yeah.
the expenditures in the mayor's office, that's fine. So I voted along with them. Sure, you want to look at the expenditures? I got nothing to hide, so that's what I voted along with.
Along with them.
Yeah.
And when you think of the ad hoc committee, what are their responsibilities?
For the budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're switching
Yes,
gears
sir.
now.
I'm
So
sorry for that.
there was an audit committee, and then there's our ad hoc budget committee
Right.
that I formed to engage more deeply our council members in the budget process.
And for my research, Mary, I know you voted for the ad hoc committee and not your own committee. Why?
I'm sorry, what?
I know
don't
you had the
understand.
ad hoc committee, then you had your own committee with for the budget. Why exactly did you do that?
The ad hoc budget committee, Quintin, makes recommendations to the mayor.
Sure.
So when the budget is presented to council, it's my budget. But I often listen to the advice of those council members that are on that committee who, like I said, along with me, take a deeper dive into where our funds are being expended, our revenue and our expenditures. So they make advice to me, recommendations, and then I consider those when I make my budget to council. That's the way it works.
Mr. Mayor, have you ever considered reprieving yourself from council? Reprieving yourself.
Retrieving?
Reprieving.
Reprieving?
Yes, sir. Reprieving yourself from council.
Give me an example of that.
Well, obviously, you're on different committees and, you take a lot of votes. Did you ever consider reprieving yourself from council?
Well, sometimes I might abstain from a
Sure.
vote. Like I serve on the board of the African American Museum
Right.
that I mentioned.
Right.
And even though I have no personal financial interest, when we vote on a matter that concerns the African American Museum, I normally recuse myself, if that's what you mean. So where appropriate, I recuse myself.
Let me turn to Mother Emanuel. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy over alleged missing money from the church. When you look at that case, Mr. Mayor, what goes through your mind as a man of faith?
As a man, so look at that case. I hadn't been involved in that. I mean, I've read the reports in the newspaper. And, I just read the other day, SLED did a little investigation and decided not to pursue it further. I really don't know anything more about it than that.
And now, why do you think SLED did an investigation in your mind?
Well, again, that was outside of my purview, but apparently someone made a request that an investigation be made.
Mm-hmm.
It was made actually to the Charleston Police Department.
Okay.
The police department through the Illumination Project and the city of Charleston, and we were very involved with the tragedy and recovery and aftermath, and so we referred it to SLED.
Okay.
We felt like that would be the appropriate folks to look into it.
And now, obviously, they have a new cross outside the church. When you look at that cross, Mr. Mayor, what goes through your mind?
Well, I was raised in a Christian tradition.
Right.
I'm a Christian,
Right.
and so the cross has very special meaning to me, Quintin, in terms of my Lord's sacrifice that He made for humankind on the cross. And so that's what I think of personally when I see the cross.
Cross.
Yeah.
Let me get back to the election one last time before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
The Livability Pact. I understand that you've made it abundantly clear that you are no longer a part of APAC. Why don't you think they didn't endorse you for mayor?
I was never a part of
That's yeah, just say that. Yeah,
PAC.
yeah,
I
just say
never
that.
had anything to do with that PAC.
Why don't you think they endorsed you for mayor?
I don't know. They decided they weren't going to weigh in on the mayor's race. So that was their decision. You'd have to ask them.
Why should a PAC be involved with a mayor and a local city council race in your mind?
Well, like I just said, they decided not to be involved in the mayor's race. That's their decision. It's their PAC. They can, make that decision, Quintin, and support whoever they like. Yeah.
In the next 4 years, what can we expect from you as mayor under your Charleston Together initiative?
Lots. We're going to work on a lot of great initiatives. Affordable housing, I've been talking about with you.
Yes.
All these drainage projects and funding and policies. We'll be bringing the city council just next week our support of the Dutch Dialogues initiatives. In the next meeting, we'll have an update of our stormwater manuals. We've got lots of projects on the burner. So and different things to work on with transportation, including moving along our first low country rapid transit, better public transit in our area. So I'm just excited to have lots of good stuff to work on, and that's what I'm looking forward to in the next 4 years.
Now, that stormwater manual, you talk about those manuals. Where is the procedure?
Where's the procedure?
Yeah, what is that procedure, the stormwater manual?
Oh, it's hundreds of pages of procedures that developers have to follow when they propose or build a new project in the city. So again, the intent of the increased requirements of the manual is that if you look at a drainage basin, when rain falls on a particular area, where is the water going to go? That new development would not add to any problems. That in fact, it's designed so it would improve conditions, add infrastructure, add retainage, manage water in a better way with everything we do going forward.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you this too, but
that includes redevelopment as well.
Oh, yeah.
When you rebuild, we have a property that you're going to redevelop, so it applies to that as well.
And you talk about development. Why are there so many hotels, Mayor?
Because Charleston is a great place to visit, and 30 years or so ago, when the economy was in, really it goes back 100 years when Charleston started focusing on tourism. The Azalea Festival was started back in the 1930s by Mayor Maybank.
Yes.
But it really kicked into a different gear, Quintin, in the 90s when the Navy base closed. Mayor Riley and the economic development community looked at our economy and focus areas that we should focus on to build Charleston's economy, particularly in light of the Navy base closure. And tourism was one of them. And so we've been more than successful. I mean, we've been abundantly successful. And Charleston is a great place to live. It's a great place to visit. So we've been very successful in tourism. And that's why I felt when I got elected 4 years ago, it took me a little while to get it done, that we needed to put a damper on hotel growth and add to the restrictions and the requirements if you want to build a new hotel. And that's what we got accomplished last year.
Yeah. Are you afraid, Mayor, that a potential economic turndown might come and these hotels might be in danger?
Not particularly.
And let me get back. You mentioned earlier about obviously the city apologizing for slavery, I believe, a year or two ago.
That's right.
The city apologized for slavery, but there's still racism in the city. How do you combat that? How do you convey this to the average person that, hey, there's no racism, that we still have work to do?
Right.
What is this all about?
Well, there's racism in the world. There's racism in humankind, unfortunately. And I believe the best way to combat it is have a message of love and of folks learning to respect one another and get along. I think we do that by getting to know one another and by working together on things, by collaborating, because we all have, we're all children of God and have common interests, and identifying those common interests and helping one another and working together, I believe is a path forward.
My main man, I'm sorry for being tough on you today. I'm sorry, but I have to do it.
Hey, it's your job.
Yes, sir. Mayor John
I
Tecklenburg.
got a head cold. I'll give you a bump.
Oh, I just got through with a cold 2 weeks ago. But thank you for your time and welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups. And I hope we can do this again because the public wants to hear from you and hear about what's going on around the city.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome
Take care.
anytime. Likewise.
All right.